welcome to another ride along with Jim the Car Guy. All right, well today we're going to talk about it. Something that was brought up to my attention is like, how do you compete with these cheaper shops that are working, doing things not quite right and using inferior products? You have to know when to say goodbye to a customer. Certain customers are very good. I have customers that bring vehicles to me and they bring it in and it's like, Jim, don't even call me, whatever it needs, take care of it, put the stuff that you recommend on there, fix the car as if it was your own. And I have a lot of my customers that have been with me over the years, and that's what they do. I have their keys. They'll call me and ask me to go and get the car from their house so I can do the repair, and I'll go and pick up the car, I'll do the repair, I'll bring it back, park it in their driveway, and I'll stop by and they'll square up whatever the bill is whenever they have a chance. But I have a lot of customers like that leave the keys with me and don't have any question of anything I charge them. I have a lot of my customers that'll, I'll say to them, I call them up and it's like, even my regulars, I don't just go ahead and fix it. I always call a customer, even though they say to me, go ahead and fix it, whatever it is, I always call them and give them a price on it. And a lot of times I get my very good customers on the phone and I'll say, listen, I said, I got the car inside, I'm checking it out, and this is what he said, no, that's all right. Whatever it is, take care of it. I don't even care. And it's like, well, let me give you an idea of what it's going to cost. And it's like, nope, just take care of it. We'll talk about it, tomorrow or whatever when the job is finished. And I have a lot of customers like that who have been with me for just about forever. I have customers that have been with me, and it's like the third generation. I used to work on their grandfather's cars, and over the years, the grandfathers were friends of mine that I started out with when I first started. I worked on their cars, and I worked on their children, and now I'm working on their children's cars. So that's how long a lot of the customers have been with me. So, but how do you deal with the customer who is a real pain in the you-know-what? I'm not going to say it, but you know what I mean. Or as somebody put it to me one time, as a real PITA. P-I-T-A. You can figure it out, and you'll know what it is. How do you deal with those? I don't know what happened. I looked over and you guys weren't there no more. It just blinked out and you were gone. Okay, I think, what I was saying is that we're going to do another video. We're going to talk about all of the charity type stuff that I've done for people who who are in a difficult place in their life and they can't pay for needed repair. So we're going to talk about that on my next ride along. I'm going to talk about all of the stuff that I've done over the years for free for people, and when they're in a really bad place. And anybody who has the ability to help out somebody, I think it's a great thing. There's no better feeling in the world than helping somebody out who's in a really bad place in a certain time frame in their life. We'll get into that in another video. We're going to cover a lot of things, and I'm going to talk about one thing that was said to me one time years ago when I first started on YouTube by one of my subscribers, and I'll never forget what he told me. So we'll talk about that on the next video too. All right, but we are talking about how do you compete with a customer, or how do you deal with the customer that comes into you and they want to right away, they want to start to chisel down the price and talk about the best possible deal and all that kind of stuff. How do you deal with it? I always tell the people, it's like, you know what, you're in the wrong shop. I don't do anything that's going to be jeopardize your safety or my reputation or anything like that. So a lot of the times I will pass on jobs and I'll tell the people thank you, but no thank you. Other people come into my shop, and anybody who deals with the public knows what I'm saying when I tell you this. A lot of times you can talk to a person, and just by talking to them, you know that person is not somebody you want to work on their car. And I'm going to give you, for instance, I had one person come into my shop one time, never met them before, and they come in and they said, I need my car to be done, and whatever the case may be, I need to have this, and this done on the car. And it's like, no problem, I can take care of it. And it's like, we started talking, it's like, well, who was your previous mechanic? And it's like, well, my previous mechanic was so-and-so, and he ripped me off. So I was like, okay, no problem. But I know the guy, and I know the shop, and it's possible maybe he had an incident with the guy and he wasn't happy about it. But as I'm talking to the guy, he's talking about, yeah, this guy ripped me off, and this guy ripped me off, and this guy, he fixed my car, but he didn't fix it right, and I had an accident because he did something wrong, so I'm suing him, and my lawyer's working on this. And right then and there, it popped into my head. It's like, you know what? I'm not working on this guy's car. I said, because I'm going to be the next guy that he's going to be bad-mouthing. So what I do is I can usually feel out if it's somebody like that, I will pass on the job. And the way that I got rid of this person, I just put them off for an extended period of time. It's like, well, I'm really booked up pretty solid. Check with me in a couple of weeks and I'll see if I can squeeze you in. And usually after the second or third incident, they get the idea and they wind up moving on to somebody else. So I know I'm going to be the next person that they're going to badmouth, is that I didn't go ahead and do the job for them and whatever. But that's the way I choose to handle people that are going to be a problem, especially when they start to badmouth somebody else and say that they ripped them off and they did this, that, or the other thing. It's like that kind of a person I really don't want to deal with. And you do get them coming in all the time. You get them coming into the shop and they may have an incident with one mechanic, which is kind of expected. Sometimes you can't be happy with your mechanic all the time. But when you have the person bad-mouthing every mechanic that ever worked on this car, at that point I know that I do not want to work on that car. But let me know what you think, how you would have handled that. But that's how I did. I just kept pushing them off further and further down the road. Now I'm going to talk about another person, and this was a woman actually, and she came to me. She was recommended by another shop. And she came down to me and brought the car into me, and it was a late model Hyundai where it was just, I'm thinking it had less than 20,000 miles on it. It was very low mileage on the vehicle. And it was a problem I think she was having with the brakes or something like that. I don't recall the whole incident itself, but I think it was something with the brakes. And I said, no problem, I'll take the vehicle in. And I'm talking to the woman, and as I'm taking down all of her information and entering it into my computer, she's talking about who did the job and what happened. She says she initially took the vehicle, a Hyundai, to a shop that I knew very well, and that shop screwed her and took advantage of her, and she's suing that shop. And it's like, well, that's possible, it could happen, and you weren't happy with them, the brakes are making noise or whatever the case may be, which I might add, I didn't even hear the noise. I drove the vehicle and didn't even hear it. Then she started talking about, now this is the whole time I'm talking, I'm putting all information into the computer. And now I had already made an appointment for her to bring her vehicle in the next day to have the vehicle repaired. And because I knew it wasn't going to be a real big deal. But then she started talking and telling me about the Hyundai dealer, how the Hyundai dealer is pushing her off, and the Hyundai dealer took care of the problem, charged her to repair the job that somebody else had done, and the problem is still there, and now they won't take care of it. So now she's going to, whatever the problem was, she's waiting for some manager of the company to call back or whatever. So I had made the appointment with her, and I thought, no, I'll get the wheels off and I'll take a look at it. But I just got a bad feeling about it. So later on at the end of the day, after I'm finished and I'm getting ready to close up and go home, I'm just thinking about this woman. I'm saying, you know what? I'm not going to be stuck in between the guy who did the job, the dealer who then corrected the job and charged the woman, and now she wants me to be involved with the job. So I said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. So I was very honest with the woman. I called her up and I said to her, I said, I don't want to do the job because the dealership took care of it and his previous mechanic took care of it. I said, I think the best thing for you to do is to take the vehicle back to either the dealer or the person that did it and work out the details with them. And she gets very, very abusive with me, starts cursing me out. I didn't even do anything on the vehicle, and she's cursing me out. And I said, and for that reason is why I would not even take a look at your vehicle, because I didn't even touch your car, and you're cursing me out and bad-mouthing me. I said, so, I don't want to. And she's getting really very obnoxious, very abusive to me. And I said, listen, either leave or I'm going to call somebody to have you removed from my shop, and that'll be that. So she leaves. You know, on all of my billheads, I have my email address on there, so anybody can email me for any questions or anything. The next day I come to work, I turn my computer on. There was a list inside there of how bad I was for not sticking to my word, and I said that I was going to repair her car, and how I changed my mind, and how it was such an inconvenience for her having to go back to the dealership after I gave her my word that I was going to work on the car. You know, I said, you know, to myself, I said, do I even respond to somebody like that? I didn't. I just actually deleted the email, and even she put something bad online about me as well with one of these companies. I'm thinking it was one of these review places. How I made an appointment and didn't keep my appointment with her, and for that reason, she would recommend nobody come to my shop to get their vehicle worked on. So I think I actually I got away pretty light on that one, because had I done something and charged her for it, she would have nailed my carcass to the board, and I would have had nothing but headaches. But that was another incident that happened with somebody who was not a very pleasant person, and that's how I chose to deal with that one, was not even to become involved with it, just to cancel the appointment that I had with her and be done with it, and move on to the next one. So you have to pick and choose what customers you're gonna work on. You don't want to be doing jobs for people that are gonna badmouth you or cause a problem down the road, and that's why it's so important that when you talk to a customer and you set up an appointment, that you have a communication between you and the customer, just to get a feel of how that person is. That's just my opinion. That's how I do things. Let me know what you think, how you would have handled that situation. Actually, both situations. Let me know what you think you would have done regarding that situation, and you know, we'll talk about that in more detail if you like. I think that's going to cover our subject for today, because I'm actually very close to work right now. I don't know if you saw that, but you saw that plane take off. I'm real close to Newark Airport. My shop is actually on the other side of the water, opposite Newark Airport. So we're very close. But you know what? Yeah, why not? You might as well stick with me. We're going to go over the bridge, and we're going to head into Bayonne and down towards where the shop is. So stick around. We'll take a ride in together, and we're just going to get off at this exit over here, and we should be there in about all of about 10 minutes. So what else can we talk about? Those are the two customers. So pick and choose what customers. You don't want to work on everybody's car, especially if you see that there's going to be a problem. I'll give you another instance. I had a guy one time pulls up in a minivan in my drive. Oh, you know, I got to tell you another story too. This one you'll like too. This one is actually about a lady who came into my shop. And you know what? We're going to cover both these. We're going to talk about both of them, or until my battery goes dead on this camera. We'll see which one comes first. The one in particular I'm talking about now is a fellow who pulled up in my driveway, never met him before. He pulls up in the driveway, does not even get out of the vehicle. He comes and he pulls up in my driveway, he blows the horn, and I'm in the shop working right there, so I figured, what the heck, I'll talk to the guy. So I step towards the door, and they says to him, yes, can I help you? And he says to me, how much to do? All right, so getting back to it, the guy pulls up and he says to me, how much to do brakes on this vehicle? I said, well, I really need to get the wheels off so I can see what kind of condition everything is in and how much the job is going to be. I said, to pull the wheels off and check it, it's going to be X amount of dollars to pull the wheels and check it. And he said, no. He says, just give me a ballpark idea of how much you think the brake job is going to cost for the front. I said, if the brakes have to be replaced using good quality brake parts, not cheap stuff, and replacing the rotors with a good premium brake rotor, it's going to probably cost you anywhere between $300 and $400. He says to me, wow, he said, that's too much money. That's a rip-off. I said, sir, I didn't even get the wheels off. I can't tell you how much it's going to be until I take the wheels off. And it's like, yeah, well, that's too much money. How much are the brake pads? And at that point, I knew I didn't even want to work on the guy's car, that I was done. So I said, have a good day, turned around and walked away and went back into the shop. And he's blowing the horn. He wants me to come back outside and talk to him. And I just waved to him and said, have a nice day. So at that point, I would not have even worked on a guy's car. But let me know what you think, how you would have handled that one as well. The last one I want to talk about, because I can see right here, we're going to be getting off at the exit right now. I don't know if you can see behind me, but there's the water back over there. And the last one I'm going to talk about is I had a lady come into me with a Toyota. She comes in to have an oil change done on the vehicle, which is no big deal. An oil change is an oil change. But I drive the vehicle in, and the brakes are making noise. They're grinding. So I said, you really need to check these brakes to see how much it's going to cost. So I gave her the price on the brakes, and she says, well, that's a lot of money. Let me think about it. I said, let me just tell you, I'm using the OEM parts. I'm getting the brakes from the dealer because these vehicles are notorious for squeaking with the aftermarket brake pads, and I'm going to do the replacement with original factory parts. It's not going to be off-brands or a generic or anything. It's going to be strictly the OEM parts. And she says, oh, okay, no problem. I'll think about it. I'll let you know. And I hear that all the time, which is fine. That's okay. But I don't hear back from her at all. Months and months later, she comes in to get an oil change again. And she says to me, can I do the oil change? I said, sure, no problem. I said, I can do that. I go and I get the vehicle. I drive the car into my shop. The brakes are squealing like a freight train trying to stop. I pulled the vehicle inside, and I said, they're squeaking like crazy. And I said to her, I'm going to hold you here so you don't fall. I said to her, those brakes are squeaking pretty bad on there. I said, who put those brakes on for you? And she told me the name of the place that did the brakes for her. And I said, well, that's why I wanted to use the OEM stuff, because if you don't use the OEM, that's what's going to happen. They're going to squeak like mad. So she said, well, how can I go about fixing that without spending a lot of money? And I said, really, the only way to do it is you're going to need to replace the brakes with the brake pads that I told you, the OEM stuff right from the dealer, because this particular vehicle is notorious for squeaking like that, and you really can't correct it unless you go ahead and put on the good quality parts that I was going to do. But that was our discussion for today. We're in Bayonne. I'm on 53rd. I'm actually 5 blocks away from my shop. Actually, really it's 6 blocks, but we won't get into that. 6 blocks away from my shop right now, so I'm going to sign off here. I'm going to stop and get a cup of coffee, and then we're going to get to work, and we're going to get our day started. All right, so let me know what the next topic of discussion is going to be, and you'll be on my next ride along, and we'll see how that goes. All right, I figured, you know what, let's take a ride along, and I'm going to show you where the shop is and how, where the shop is located. All right, as you can see, it's in the inner city. There's a lot of houses here, a lot of cars, difficult parking sometimes. And then my shop is just down the end of the street here. We make a right turn at the corner here, drive over, and you'll see my steel doors are closed. And this is the shop. 4 cars can get inside there at one time. We come in from the side, and then we can also come in from the front. All right, let's get our day started, and we'll see what happens. All right, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.